Okay, so here we have like remove button click handler. So we have like another method. I do the same. But I need to add the method here. So what? What do you mean? I don't. But that's like EDU specific thing. IDE specific thing. So it's not really related to JavaScript. It's more related to the how my web store like behave. Because there is no colors in code. Code is just text. It's something like that. Okay. So now we will have like console.log clicked this.secret add clicked remove clicked. So when you click remove, it just remove click. When you add click, it's add click, remove click, add click. Super clear. Okay? Make sense? And if you want to add, for example, every time you add a button, every time you add to-do list, you want to remove all the other to-dos. That's stupid. Doesn't make any sense. But let's just like, I want to kind of make it harder. You can call this dot remove button click handler. And you can call a function inside another function. Nothing complex.
Just here, and that why we did remove them.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make sense to add to do and after that remove them all. I'm just trying to show you how I can call a function inside another function. That's the purpose. I will remove it, but just to get the point where I can. Is it clear for you? Because he asked me about that.
Yeah. Now that you use this remove button click handler.
So every time I add, it will add and remove. Add and remove. Add and remove.
So use the binding.
No, this one is already like bound here, so we don't need to bind or do anything.
Exactly.
If it's like if it wasn't bind, I can use like the call or the bind, and after that I can call the bind. JavaScript.
Love
it. So yeah, this is it. So now I want to. Is it better if you can like write the code again, this code, so you can get kind of dirty, just trying to write the code, or we should just continue?
You can share it as a snippet so that this. Or maybe you share it at the end of the class.
You write it to try to figure out how to do.
Maybe when you actually can just use it as a snippet, then you can
What do you mean?
start from there. If you send it to Slack as a snippet or.
I want you to write the code again and not the snippet.
Yeah.
Okay.
But is it make sense? Is it better or like it's up to you how you understand better? Should I just continue or should I stop and you write the code again?
Yeah, because of time. Maybe you can finish, then you can give us the sharing file.
Is it better for you like that?
Yeah, because of
all of you.
We have about.
I would say we're already recording.
Yeah.
And the sound is actually quite good.
Okay. Okay.
We can always see the videos.
Yeah.
To type it again. What you should do is ask questions for stuff you don't understand.
Okay. Clear. Yeah. I just want to get like your point of view. Yeah, clear. So now.
But it depends on other people.
Yeah. This is why I'm asking. It depends on you. I don't have any preferences.
I agree. We can continue and watch the videos. Like if you have some issues,
okay.
We can pause it and like change things.
Okay. Sounds good. So now, I have like this thing, and I want to each time click the add button. I want to add an item to this to do, to display like 3 items, 4 items, and so keep adding items to do. Okay, so the most like straightforward thing Each time I click the button, I get the text from this thing, and I add it to this array. Okay? But there is just one thing. When you click the button, I should get the value from this input. So the value of this input is stored inside the DOM element, the input DOM element. That's it. You get the value from the HTML, from the DOM. But that's not how React works, because there is something really famous about React, which is React is kind of function. So if I will this like React component, let's say component. React component is just a function that takes data and render markup. This is React. Markups means like, I don't know, markups or HTML or something, like the thing that you want to display, the markup. Let's say like HTML.
M is for markup.
Markup is better.
M is for markup.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it's the markup. So this is React. So you give data to the component, you give props to the component, and the React will transform props and data and return display. So you can see the life cycle. We call this like one data flow. So you give the data to the component, and the component will give you something. It's like just one way. And the component will give another component data, and that component will give another component data, and they will render. But you cannot. There is no way to give or to pass data up. It's just down. So passing props, but you can never like go up. You can never like child component passing props to the. I can never like pass stuff or pass data from to do to the app. I'm rendering to do here. I can pass from app to do here, but I cannot do the opposite. Okay, so React is kind of function where it gives a component data, and it will give you the HTML or the result. And React will come, and there is a lot of components. So you give each component data, and it will give you output. Each component data will give you output, and you can combine all these results into one big HTML or big application. That's one thing. So getting stuff or relying on the DOM to get data is not good, because the DOM is not predictable. The DOM may be changed. So checking or getting the data from the DOM, it's like a naughty pattern. It's not like a good pattern. This is why in React we don't use. So if you want to get the input here, it's not good to do that using just like input.txt or something, because you are relying on the DOM to get the data. But in React we use props to get the data. You got the.
So you mean like instead of making like an input value and or something like this to type and get it, so we make another function?
Maybe we can do that, but the better option is to use something called state. So whenever you have a source of data that change every time, for example, an input component or set timeout changing, whenever like you have like changed like set of data, even this list, we cannot put it here after we will change it, but just to kind of make it simpler, every time you have something that change and you want the React component to change whenever this data change. For example, if you add another item here, let's say set timeout to do. So after like 4 seconds, we will do function. And we'll do the push new array. It's like the same thing here. So 2, and to do stuff test 2 random. And before I want to console.log running set time out. Okay, So I will refresh. Component, yeah, because of this. So I will wait. Something will change. Yes, running set timer. I added an item to this to do, but I don't get the display here. There's just 2 items. Why? Why?
We didn't use the command.
What?
We didn't add this.
We added. If you, for example, here, under here, if you say like console.log to do's, it will have
Yes,
like
but,
three items.
it need to
Refresh.
Yes.
Exactly. So React is not observing our variables. React will display the data it contains in our variables, but it will just forget about them. React is not really holding any reference to these variables. It doesn't know that this variable changed. So first time React will render, done. It will never like wait for the variable to change or wait for the array to change. You got the idea? Yeah.
So if you go up to the array
Yeah.
and you add a new item over here,
Yeah.
will it do that?
Yeah, because it's something related to this application. Because every time you change the code,
And we save.
exactly. Every time you change the code, so there's like a whole like render.
Okay.
But if we don't have that, this application will not change. So when I add an item here, because I'm changing the code, not because React is figuring out. But React cannot figure out what's changing inside my application. So how to keep track of stuff? How to wait if, for example, if I want to add like an item to this list, how I can kind of re-render and show 3 items instead of 2.
Using update.
Not really. React doesn't work this way. React has something called state.
State.
It's like the state of something. So React, each component has a state. Each component. And what state means? It's something that if that thing like changed, React will re-render. Okay, so let's say you put 1 on the state. You put just a number called 1 on the state. And you change it to 2. React will re-render. So state is a container for variable stuff that change, and you want to your React component to behave when this stuff change. Because until now we have been like using props to pass data. But let's say I want to change something inside the application. Let's say every time you click the button, I want to, for example, in Facebook, if you, not in Facebook, but there's like buttons. If you click, it toggle, like the toggle. If you click, it will switch to on. If you switch it, you click again, it will switch to off. How I can keep track if I'm in the on or in the off state? Using state. From the name, you can get the point of the state. It's something that holds like the state of the world. What I'm doing. What's my state now? How I'm behaving? Like what's my behavior? Is it clear? And in React, the state is immutable. You know what immutable means?
Does not change.
Exactly. It's something you cannot change it.
Yeah.
It's not mutable, it's immutable. Okay? So every time you change the state, you need, for example, let's say you have an array. You put it like inside the state. And you want to change the array, you want to add another item. It's just simple array, but it's inside the state. You cannot just add an item using push, because push is mutating the array. It's changing the array. So the alternative is to get the array from the state, build a new array, add the element to the new array, and replace it with the old array. You got the idea a little bit? So it's like changing instead of just mutating stuff. We will see that in action, but just to get the idea.
So you could actually say that you have the array, so you now change it to a new array,
Yeah.
and then put changing the old array with the new.
Exactly. So for example, I have an array called array1, and I want to add an element to it. I cannot just add an element to array1. I want to have another copy of array1 called array2. Add something to array2 and change array1 with array2. This is called immutability. Every time something changes, you change the whole thing. Okay? So in React, we can remove the set time out here and stuff.
Can't
Just
you move like the set time out inside the class?
it's not about inside or something, because here, which code is responsible for rendering our list? It's this code, and this code is mapping over the to-dos. React has not any idea about if to-do is changing or not. If you put this code here, inside, outside, it's about the to-dos. It's not about where you put the code. Okay? So we remove this. And to use the state, generally you need to initialize it. So you need to tell React what my state contains. Okay? Use this because you are initializing. Which place like we initialize stuff in? It's mainly the constructor. Where we initialize like stuff, for example, the binding, the secret here. So you do like this dot state. It's like this dot props to get the props. You do this dot state and you do like this. It's an object. And inside the object you put whatever you want. Okay? So let's say I have this array here. I have to-dos. So I have an object. That object contains an array, and the array contains like stuff. It doesn't matter, but it's a key value. It's an object. Okay. So now I don't have the to-dos anymore. I just removed it. You can see to-dos is not defined. So to-dos is not defined here. Because I need to get the to-dos from the state and not from the global variable, because I removed the global variable. How I can do that? I do this dot state dot to-dos. I named it here to-do. I can name it whatever, but to-dos make sense, more sense.
It's as if you are trying to access files in a folder.
What?
It's as if you are trying to access files in a particular folder.
What do you mean by files?
I mean, this dot state and to do is inside the state.
Exactly, it's nested inside. Exactly, it's nested inside. Here I have the rendering again. But instead of getting the to-dos from a random variable, I'm having it inside the state. Okay? But what's the point? Why we did that? It's like the same result. Why complexing stuff? Because now we can add. So exactly, each time you click the button, let's say I want to add random like item to the array. I will not read the item, the input here. Yet I will just add random value instead of reading the input from here. So what's the code responsible for adding? It's this one. Okay. So we will have like this is like we will remove this. This is just stupid. So now just I need to construct a new item. So this is like the item format. Const new item. This is us creating a variable. Let's call dummy to do. Now I need like to increment this like variable every time because it's 0, 1. I can just put it inside the class. I can just put it like this dot counter equal 2 because like it starts with 2. So I can just put here this dot counter plus plus. Okay.
Actually, I was going to ask about it.
A second. So plus plus it will increment after.
Shouldn't it equals 1?
After you use it.
What? I want to increment it after I use it. Because it's 2, I want to use 2, after that I increment it.
Okay, so because I comment after.
Yes, increment after. I want to add this new item to the array. What I can do, I can use the same thing. So this dot state dot to do's. Okay. So I need to clone this array. Generally, I guess you've used this before. For example, if you have like an array, if you have like 1 and 2, you used like this before. Spread operator. No,
No.
is it your first time? Okay, nice. So I can explain it. So the spread operator is like spreading items. It's like we have one collection, you spread them. How we can use it like inside the arrays? Let's say we have like 1 and 2 and 3. Or let's say 2, 4, 3, 4. Okay, let's call it array. Let's build a new array that contains 1 and the rest of the array. This will give us 1, 2, 3, 4. Because we are taking this array and spreading it over. So we are taking all the values from the array and putting them. Because if I will do like this, I will have 1 and another array inside the array. But if I do this, I kind of split the array, deconstruct the array. Okay?
Is it like array.length or something?
No, array.length is for like the size of the array. This is like for destructing the array. Okay? It's for example, if like we have like this array, it's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's say I want to add an element to this array without editing the first array. So I can just put this and add 5 here. 2, 3, 4. So this will spread the array. We'll kind of open it and get all the elements from it and put them inside this array. So we have like the array, it's 2, 3, 4. You put an array here. So it's an array inside an array. But instead of just keeping it as an array inside an array, these 3 dots will kind of impact the array. So we have like a box full of numbers. You will get these numbers out and put them inside the global array, this array.
So it's
And-
kind of like putting 2 arrays together.
Exactly. But I'm just like spreading like the array.
I see what you mean.
But we will lose this array if we refresh the page.
No, I'm not talking about refreshing or React or anything. This is JavaScript. Just now. Focus with me now. Don't try to. I'm just trying to break like things down. You have the opportunity to ask. Just focus on these small stuff instead of just having the global. Okay. So you got like an idea about. So we can even like put 1 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have like my array. It's 2, 3, 4. So you can see here. So JavaScript kind of spread the array and put 1 in the first and 5 at the end. Clear or not? Why I'm using this? Because it's really good. Sometimes, like for example, I want to add like two elements to this array without editing the first array. Because if you see now, for example, let's say array 2. Now array 1 it's still 2, 3, 4, but array 2 instead it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm constructing a new array out of the first array without editing it. Clear?
Yes.
Is it the same as compare?
Yeah, you can say that. But spread it's kind of more useful because you can kind of I don't know. You can use it on parameters. You can use it on a lot of places.
Okay.
For example, let's say test. So I have like a variable here. For example, let's say param1 others. So I can param1 and others. So if I call test with 5 and 6 and 7, 8, 9. Oh, just a second. So I will put 3 dots here.
Yeah. And you just
And I will call this. It will be 4, which is the first param, all these variables, I'm specifying just one parameter here. But because of these 3 dots, JavaScript will group the rest of the parameters, all of the rest of the parameters, and put them in one array because I'm using 3 dots here. So the first one, I'm just having it as it is, and the rest 6, 7, 8, 9 as an array. So it's really like, it's really syntactic sugar. It's really something. But for example, if you see like concat, it's just JavaScript like method, like push and stuff. But you can use it, of course. So the concat method is used to merge 2 or more arrays. This method doesn't change the existing array, but instead returns a new array. Okay?
Yeah.
So,
It's more just to make sense of
yeah, what
what
are
does
you
it
doing?
look like.
Yeah, we can just
Because we know concat, and if we know concat, then we also know this time.
yeah, exactly, precisely. So we can use concat. I will try to use concat.
You don't have to know how to do that.
Okay, so we'll use like the 2 ways. So it's like this dot state dot to dos. So const to dos. I will get the to dos. I will update them using 2 ways. Either I can use like to dos and new item. So you can see here, I spread all the to-dos I have, this and this, and add a new item on top of it. Or I can do to-dos dot concat new item.
So either of them can.
Yes. Which one I should keep?
Keep the first one, please.
I should keep the first one?
Yeah, I think that one is more explicit to me.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. So I can say new to-dos const new to-dos new to-dos. Okay. Now I have like a new copy of the state, an edited copy. Now I can replace it with the old state. So until now we have been using this dot state dot something to read from the state. To edit the state, so React can render, we use this dot set state. And you give it an object here. So to-dos. So it's like the same key here, to-dos. I want to replace it with a new to-dos. Okay? Now let's see if it's working or not. I don't need to write anything here because I'm not using the value, I'm just using dummy text. And it's working.
Maybe add something different.
What do you mean by different?
Maybe
I'm not using like this text here. I'm just using dummy text.
Okay.
We will like have that in another thing. What? What?
That's counter.
Yeah.
It's a key.
It's like 0, 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Clear? Is it clear or not?
can we try the to-dos concat?
Okay, let's try to use
We
concat.
can comment out this like that.
Let's try to use concat. Const new to-dos equal concat. Let's try this one. There's 2 ways like to achieve the same thing. Either way it's good.
Okay, now if you want to load it from the user,
What?
the user impute the data.
What did,
If the user has to impute the data, how?
what do you mean by
Instead of
like
us-
you mean
yeah.
like the input here?
Yeah, yeah.
We will do that actually. We will do that. But this is just like what? It's too much.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Yes. Well, actually, just need.
But just remember, you are here to ask. Try to learn. Try to ask.
No,
Like,
I'm learning.
I'm-
Just processing the ideas.
just. We will not add new things. We will keep working with the state until the end. So
Fine.
we will just keep working with the state. We will not add anything. But there is like a lot of patterns around the state. How to pass the state. How to work with it. How to edit it. For example, set state and stuff. Okay. Let's say. I have this input here. I have this input. There is like a pattern in React called controlled components. Before using controlled component, there is something in React called ref. So if you want to have, for example, if you want to have access to this element. So for example, here you want to say like my input dot value, dot value. So you want to have access to this input. Use something called ref. And the reference, when React will render the component, you just pass it a function. This function, it's a callback. It will take a parameter which is this input. So you say like input, it's like this input, and you assign this input to a variable, whatever variable you want. Generally, we assign it to a property inside the class, so we can have access to it inside like every method and stuff. So we do this dot, for example, my input equal input. Let's say I will do this. Okay. So now when React will render, it will put this element input inside the DOM, and it will run this function. React will run this function, and this function will take the first parameters, the DOM element, the input element, and here you can do whatever you want. You can do console.log here, and like let's say console. Input. Okay, this is wrong. So this is my input. So reference, it's a way to interact with the DOM manually, because sometimes, for example, if you are using jQuery or something, let's say you want to mix jQuery with React, doesn't make any really like sense. But this, I don't know. Let's like there's a library that gives you a lot of functionalities, but you cannot adapt all like jQuery and stuff to use React because they don't use React. So you can get the input element and do jQuery stuff here. For example, you can do here like and do something, add class. So this is a way of saying to React, give me the element and go away. I want to do something like low level. I want to do something on my own. I don't want to follow you.
Can we
What?
can we give them
Okay,
the
like
input?
any library. I don't know. Like, did you use like any library?
Kept typing.
Yeah, but if you, for example, if you want, for example, to do like input dot add event listener, you want to use it the old way. I don't know why, but you want to use it the old way. You can use it here. This is wrong. Sometimes you need it. Like 99% of the cases, you don't need that. Like 99. But like the 1%, it's really strange case. Maybe you need that. Okay. But generally, what we do, it's you assign this to a proper class property. This dot, for example, hi input, and you say input. So we assign this input to class property. So I can refer to it, for example, here. I can say this dot my input, and it will refer to this one here, because React will render first. What? React will render first, assign the input to the thing, and after that, when you click the button, we will run this, and we will have access to it here.
Can we
So
not use jQuery.
We are not using jQuery.
Yes, but can we not use it?
We are not using jQuery.
Yes, but in React,
Yeah.
can we not?
Yeah, you should not use it. It's not good to use jQuery with React. It's not good.
Okay.
I'm just giving you examples. Because sometimes there's like libraries, they work in a different way compared to React. They work the old way, on event listener and stuff.
Yeah.
So this is like a good kind of hack to use them. Kind of. So this dot by input dot value will refer, let's say, I want to comment all this code. I will do an alert. Okay. So I will type just something here, and I will click the button. Hello. To do stuff test. Because I have access to this input element here. How? Because when React render, I give it a callback, and inside the callback, React will call my callback, giving it to it the input element or the DOM element. For example, if I will say ref here, I do the same thing. React will give me here the UL element, and then I can access here the UL element. So if I will do like console.log, this is the UL. Is it clear or strange?
Hold on.
Why it's strange? Just try to like think. Just try to
It's
ask
like,
me why.
It's like select this element and
No, it's like
get the value.
it's just remember about the value here. Remember, forget about it. Sorry.
Yes.
Here, we are saying to React, when you render and put these elements, because like after all these input and buttons, these are JSX and React stuff, but at the end, React will render them to the browser. I'm saying to React, give me the element when you render it to the browser. I need it.
This reference input, this input,
Yeah.
you can name it anything. Right?
It's a variable. You can just console.log.
I thought
You can just console.log. Or you can put like element.
Yeah.
Or like you can name it like input element. And you can do console.log like input element.
I thought it should be like
No, these are just variables. It's just JavaScript, remember. So here I will have like the input, my input here. So I will have access to the DOM element. I can do whatever I want with it here. Don't kill yourself. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
No, leave it. You go. See. You don't need to
can we
go.
not stop it?
No. Just leave it. Open until. Okay.
So what if you use ref to this, like saying,
If you want to interact with the DOM
yeah,
straight away, you don't want to like pass through React and stuff. You just want the DOM element and
is,
you want
is the ref keyword?
what?
Is it a keyword?
No, it's just a function. It's like when you pass on click or for example.
Ref ref.
No, here it's like React. When you pass this element to React, React will access it using like so inside this input. But because input, it's also a component, kind of, but it's implemented by React and not you. So inside React, there is like a line, like this. This dot props dot ref.
Yeah, exactly. That was what I was asking.
Yeah. So it's like a function. You name it like ref, like placeholder. the DOM needs placeholder and stuff. So you pass it like show graph.
So I have to use graph.
Yeah.
Do we have that input element somewhere else? Like,
We have just one here.
You
What?
cannot input anything for now.
What?
You can't input anything into the. Not now.
Yeah, because I'm using like
I meant like the reference to input element.
yeah.
Input element, is it like,
It's this input
no,
will be rendered here.
Yeah.
So I have access to this element using the reference.
Are you still recording?
Yes.
The rest is like,
so
People are confused. I'm waiting for them. I'm waiting for them. They are blocked. They are absorbing React. They are absorbing React now.
What about
He wanted the bedroom. He come up with a question. What did you do there?
if I want to show the input ID? If
What do you mean by the input ID?
If input has
You give
an
an
ID,
ID. Yeah, you give an ID. Also.
You want to give an ID to the
Yes.
input? Let's say you give it an ID to do text.
okay,
Okay?
and I want to alert it.
Exactly. So here you want to assign it to a variable. So this dot input element, or let's say my input. Okay? And you assign it to input element.
Totally.
What do you mean?
Props.
Now you just assign like
No, like this.
yeah.
Just like this.
Yeah, just like this. Okay? And here, when you click the button, remember the click handler, you alert this dot input the value. We can also alert this dot. Yeah. We can just do console.log better because alert is really annoying. Like, so ID, just like this. Okay? And we're in.
probably need to type.
Exactly. Need to click on the button to do text. I don't think just
Yeah, you have the text as ID.
yeah, exactly. And the value, for example, if you write something here, it will be
Because you change that.
crazy. Sorry. If you write something here and you say
It is the UI.
no, this is the text and this is the to do ID. And you can do whatever you want. It's like normal JavaScript, plain JavaScript.
You mentioned before that every time we are going to add new things, it gives new ID for it. Okay.
That's not an ID. That's the key. Just the key that I was talking about. It's not really related to the ID of JavaScript or HTML. It's really different thing. It's when you render a list inside React, you give it a key, so React can distinguish. But this key is not related to styling or anything.
Yeah,
It's a key for data, for distinguishing the data.
This is the question.
Yeah.
This is the key.
When you pass this key here,
Yeah.
you just forget about it. This key is not for consuming.
It's
It's
for
not-
React to-
It's for React.
Yeah.
So you just give the key to React, and React will handle it. So it's not really related to you or to styling or to JavaScript at all.
No, just yeah.
So just when you pass it here, you need to have like a unique ID. You pass it and you forget about it.
So yeah, the React already take this element sign.
Exactly. So it will assign this one to hello to 0 and to do stuff to 1. And when you will change the data, for example, now when you render the data, React will know that I don't want to render the first ally and the second ally. I just need to add the third ally. Okay. Is it clear? Super clear or just clear?
It's clear.
So now we can do the stuff. Instead of having dummy text here, first thing we check if this dot, let's say const var equal my input, this dot my input dot value,
If it was empty.
if value different than or if it's equal to this, we just return. We return. Otherwise, we continue.
Yes.
Okay, and you put val here. That's better. Instead of nesting the code inside an if else. That's kind of more clear.
Yeah.
If it's empty, return. Otherwise, it will not be empty here. For sure.
You are going to write it as function.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So here, let's say, I don't know, eat. To do, it will be eat.
Remove it and click.
What?
No one knows.
Remove it and.
What? No one knows. Only me and God. Only me and the God.
No reactions.
Only me and the God knows what's happening. But yeah, when you click the button,
So we're giving the value. The value will
when you click the button, we will fire the add button click handler function. The function will grab the value from the input. We will check if it's empty, we just return. Otherwise, we continue by creating a new array with the counter, the ID, and the value. We get the to-do from the state. We kind of copy the to-do from the state and add a new item and replace it inside the state. And React will re-render. Because each time you call setState, React knows inside, because you didn't implement this setState, it's by React, it's provided by React. So when you call it, you edit the to-dos, and React will re-render again. So when we are re-rendering, we are not re-rendering here, we are not re-rendering here, we are not re-rendering here, or here, or here. We are re-rendering because we are calling setState. So if you do this, you are like adding stuff, but nothing is changing because it didn't change the state. But when you change the state,
It's adding items.
okay, clear somehow.
Yeah.
So reading the value from the input, it's not really a good pattern, as I told you before, because we are relying on, because generally the DOM is really an external thing. So we have all the data here, but the text is in the DOM. So we have all the data, but if I need the text, I need to go to the DOM to get the text. That's not good. We should keep all the data inside the React component. How? Generally, the famous pattern, it's called controlled component, which means every time you control the input. So you give it a value, and each time it changes, you change the value. How? I will show you in action. So instead of having a ref here, let's remove the ref. So we will remove the ref. So what do? You do value and you put something here, a variable. Generally, the input will change. Every time you type something, we will change the input. So it's something that changed. And every time it changes, we need to re-render the component to render the new value. So where we should keep this thing? Values that change, and when they change, we re-render in the state.
Yeah.
We call set state to edit the state. Okay? So here, generally, you don't need to initialize stuff here, but it's better to have all your state here. Even, for example, let's say the text, it will be undefined, or it will be empty, let's say. It's really an empty value, but it's better to initialize all your state here. So if other people are reading your code, they will figure out what state you have, instead of putting all them like, I don't know, other places. So just group all the state that you have and put them in the initial state. Okay? And you pass how it's called text. So we call this dot state dot text. So this dot state dot text. So now we are passing a value to the input. So now the input is kind of static, because generally the input will manage like its own state inside it. So when you change the input it has its own value inside. But now I'm passing the value to the input. If I will run this, I cannot type. Why?
Because it's something.
Not because of empty.
Empty.
Not because of empty, but it's run. Let's say, I will make it easier for you. Let's say hello.
You got hello.
You will get hello. And I cannot type, I cannot delete, I cannot edit the state of the input. Why?
Because it's not re-entering and not going through all the.
Exactly. That's kind of half the answer. But why? Because I'm providing the value with a static property. Okay? I need to change, if I need to change the value of this input, I need also to change the value of this set state of the text. There is like a callback in React called onChange. So there is like onChange. I can remove this. This is like a callback. So it take the input. I can do console.log input. Now you can type, because I'm not passing any static value. I commented. Focus, please. This is really important. You will like use this button for. So now I can edit, because I'm not passing any static value. But every time I edit, there is like an onChange. So you get from the name onChange, like when the input change, run this function. And you can see it's a proxy, but this is like a normal event. So you can say input.target, or you can say event. It's better because it's an event. It's like on k-up or on click or something. So it's like in the input. So now we can say dot value.
Yeah.
So you can get the value. You can see I'm typing.
Because I have seen before. Now it makes sense for me. I have seen before, but now it's okay.
Yeah, it's like aha.
Yes.
Yeah. So now we are getting the value, but what we can do now, we can still provide the value here, and at the same time, when the value change, we call this dot set state, and we give it text. Is event dot target dot value. So every time the value change, we change the state. So I have like every time I type here, I change the state. Actually, you see like rendering. because I'm calling set state. So every time I type here, I'm changing the value in the state. So first, let's say like it's empty now. And when I type A, now this contains A. When I type B, this contains B. You got the idea a little bit?
Yeah.
It contains B or
Because
A.
you're
Yeah.
AB.
Yeah.
AB.
Yeah, this
Because the value,
Yeah.
the value of the input,
Yeah.
it's AB.
Yeah. Exactly.
But we are changing because you type B.
Yeah. It changed. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
So here-
value.
You can pass the value here. So you can still type even with the value here. So what's happening now? When React render, the value will be empty. Let's say I want to have like initial state, like to do text. So I have to do text here because it's the initial state, and I will pass it to the input component using this dot state dot text. And each time I type something, I change the text with the new value, and the React will re-render and will pass the new value because this whole render will call again, and we will provide with the value. So you can see this import is static, but because React is re-rendering, we are changing the value. But technically it's static.
So it's changing because
React is re-rendering.
Because you're saying set state.
Yeah,
set
and React
state,
will re-render.
Set state. Set state. Set state.
Exactly. So each time I call set state, React will re-render this again and will pass the new value. But if I will do this, I cannot change because I'm not re-rendering, I'm not changing the state. Is it clear? This pattern is really, 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 really important. I've been working with React for maybe 1.5 years, and I still use this pattern every day. It's really important. You can see why it's powerful now. Now, if I want to add the to-do, I don't need to do all this shit. I can just like change value with this dot state dot text. So I'm working now with the text as it is, like just data. I don't think about the DOM and what's happening inside the input, and I'm getting the input from, or the text from the input. So I have like this variable and it's updated like automatically. So let's say our to-do text, test, to-do text, test. You can see now I'm referring to this dot state dot text, and it's automatically updated by this input and this callback function. So I have a value, I pass it to the input, and every time the input change, the input will tell React to change, and React will tell the input to change. You got the idea? So I don't know if I can draw it, but I don't know. I'm looking for. I don't know. I want to like find a picture or something, but yeah, it's not really important. So just remember, the input, I'm giving value to the input. So React is giving part of the state, which is just the text, to the input. And whenever the input change, it will change, but it will not render the display like, because it cannot change. I'm providing it with the static value. So the input will reach to set state and say, my state changed. And set state will update the state, which is text, and pass it again to the input. And it will keep. it will keep happening. Like every time I type A, I call set state because I type something, and the state change, React re-render, it will pass the new value and the A displayed. So be like when I type, nothing happened, but a re-rendering happened, and I can see df. So df that I can see here, it's not because of this input, it's because React is re-rendering and passing a new value to the input. So the whole thing between typing and displaying, for example, when I type like H now, you can see certainly that you can see the H. But between typing and seeing the H, there is whole like React stuff re-rendering.
Does it take, if you press a key, or if you type fast?
Yeah, React is so fast.
Will it render for each key, or?
Yeah, for each key.
Or
You can
if
see here.
Copy and paste.
If you copy and paste, it will be one, but it's because it's one change. But it doesn't matter.
So it's every change.
Every change, on change. Not input on something, on change. If you, for example, have a lot, text, and you do, it's just one. You are like looking at me like, what? Come on.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why did we learn about ref?
Because sometimes that's the more natural way of accessing values from the DOM. That's the first thing. We learn about refs in the first like step before the state, because it's so natural to use ref. It's not really the React way, it's the DOM way, it's the standard way. And also, if after you want to integrate with other libraries that doesn't follow React, you can just use ref. But the recommended way, it's the controlled component, which is passing a value and updating the value on a change. Okay, I will build another component now. It will be more complex, but simpler at the same time. Let's say counter. Okay, I will import it here. I can just use this. Counter. I can just print. Okay. And here I can just import React from React class counter extends React dot component. I can just say here like export default. That's also fine. So export default this class, or I can say export default counter. It's the same thing. Okay, it's up to you to use whatever you want. Here we have a render. We will say like counter, and we see like during that counter, let's say 5. So we have like counter. I want to build a counter, so it start like when you render the page, it would start like 1, 2, 3, and start going down. Here, like, just think this way. So when you want to build a React component, the first thing, the main feature here is what? It's the text here counter? No, it's this number going up. So this number is changing. What thing that should I rely on when I have like changing values? It's the state. So I should put this number in the state and update it like every second using set timeout. Is it like clear? Kind of. So you just like initialize it with 0, and each time, each second, you call set state, and React will keep. Let's do it. So first thing is constructor props. I call super props. props. Okay. I do set state. State. Q2. Sorry. With counter 0. Okay. Let's do something crazy.
Don't.
Let's do it. Initial count. Let's say 10. It's like instead of starting from 0, you can pass using props where I should start, like with. Okay? So here I can do props dot initial counter.
Yes.
Clear?
Yes.
So I initializing the state using something from the props. Is it clear? It's not really complex. Just like get your head around it. So yeah. So here I can display this dot state dot counter. I'm displaying 10 because I passed 10. If I passed 9, 9. Clear? So now I need something. I need to change the counter every. Let's say like every 1 second you add 1. So you keep like 9, 10. 11. It's like counter one going from 0 to infinity. Kind of. So I need to change the counter using set state. But where I can change it? I don't have any input here to wait for it. So that's the hardest part here.
Maybe is it possible to render all this?
I can put by, for example, here I can put this dot.
No, what if you take?
I can say set timeout here.
Yeah.
But the problem, like, I cannot trust the render function. The render function is keep running all the time, every time the value change. So every time the value change, I will run a new set timeout, and it will keep updating like crazy.
Sorry, I think what I understand is
Yeah.
if now you have two different components to do list and
No, these are like two separate components.
yeah.
They don't have anything in common. Anything. Even the state, the life cycle, they are like two separate applications.
But they are running on the same output.
What? What do you mean?
They have the same output.
They don't have the same output.
But
They are together here.
yeah.
They are together because here I'm composing them and putting them together. But they are like two separate applications. This to-do list has its own state, has its own shit, has its own.
Because that was what I created two components and I called them. I did like the to-do list and this counter.
Yeah.
I used a comma to separate them to see if it runs together, but it did not. That was why I'm kind of.
What do you mean?
Nice. If you go back again to your app.js.
Yeah.
To-do lists.
Yeah.
Comma. Then I put counter.
What do you mean by you do like this?
I was trying to run them side by side. Yeah.
You are not right. When you, for example, when you like see HTML, when you see like this is like GitHub, it's HTML. This is HTML.
Mm-hmm.
Are you running something here side by side? It's just rendering, showing stuff.
Yeah.
It's the same thing here. You are just showing stuff. The to-do list will show an input and stuff, and the counter will render counter and start counting. So there is these not. We build them as functions and classes, but when we use them like HTML tags.
So if you put
Remember
a
this.
comma, it will just be a
These
comma.
are functions that encapsulate like stuff, but at the end they are just HTML tags. They will produce HTML stuff. So there is no side by side, and kind of. You got what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So this to-do list will render HTML, and this count will render div with HTML. That's it. These are not like functions. You need to call them one after the other. No, it's just HTML.
I mean, it's possible to have different functions or different components.
Yeah.
And they use the same output, the same or they like everything you render now will be shown on the app.js.
Yeah. It's like the entry.
Yeah.
The entry. Yeah. It's like this is the entry, this is the index. Okay, what was your question?
Yeah.
Nothing?
Because
I'm
mistake
saying
I-
that they
because-
replace it beside each other and makes a comma.
Yeah, that was.
It's
yeah,
like HTML.
Yes,
it's like
because
HTML.
That what I did. I put comma. Okay, no, on the same line. That what I did. I tried
Just
it on
a-
the same line, but
Just a second.
okay. If you that app.js now, yeah, no app.js.
Just a second.
Okay,
There's like a comma here. You can see?
yeah,
If you put, for example, something like this.
yeah. Exactly. That is so. This is what I tried. Yeah.
This is like just HTML. This is like HTML, comma, and HTML.
Okay.
There's nothing special.
Okay.
At the end, components are just producing HTML.
Okay. Well, that one.
That's true, they have JavaScript inside and some stuff, but
Yeah,
at the end, they are just
yeah.
producing HTML.
Let me see that syntax. I think I don't know where the mistake came from. Okay, what I did, I treated it as if it's a kind of special component of its own. You know, like this to do is inside the what do you call it now?
What do you mean?
It has a closing.
Yeah, self-closed.
Yes.
It's a self-closed tag.
So I did it on the other. Okay, yeah, I've seen it now. Okay.
You mean like this?
I've seen where I made the mistake. I've seen it now.
You mean like this?
I've seen where I made the mistake. I did not close the other one.
Yeah.
I've seen where the mistake came from. Okay. I've seen it now.
Okay. There is one thing I forgot to tell you about, which is really important. Let's say, like in HTML, you can pass children. So you can input, you can open div, and inside the div, you can put stuff inside it. You can do the same thing here. The to-do list here, for example, you can do like this. It will keep rendering the same to-do. Okay, to-do is more, let's, because now we are working in the counter, let's use the counter. We can just do this. And it will be the same. But if I will do, this is children. Okay? It will not show anything. Why? Because React will grab all, for example, let's say you put div here. And another P. That's just div. Hello, children. Okay? We will not show anything. Because if you want to have access to this thing or to the children of your component, it's the same thing. But instead of saying this dot props, for example, if you this is this dot props dot initial counter, we call this dot props dot children. So if you go to counter and you do this console, or we can do it here, console.log this.props.children. This is it. It's like type div, so you can see it's a div. But it's complex object because React is wrapping the divs and stuff. But you can see here type div. No, it's a complex object. Believe me. Yeah. Because the children of this, the children of the counter, it's this div, and the children of this div is hello world. So he's saying that here hello world is the children of this div. Okay. I'm sorry. It's not me.
Never going to work right on anything in those things.
Okay, so if you want to display the children, you can say here, you can just display them like here. You can say like class name, children. Okay, and you can say this dot props dot children. Because of so now if you see the markup, so we have like this is the counter with counter 9, and there's div called children, and inside it we are rendering the children. So I'm taking these stuff from here and putting them here, so I can play with the children. Is it clear? Yeah. So yeah. So let's continue with the counter. I can remove this. Let's continue with the counter. I don't need this. So now I need to set timeout. The best, like when you say set timeout, you need also to do clear timeout. Why? Because each time you need to you do like set timeout or set interval. We need set interval, not set timeout, because set timeout is just once. We need set interval. So we need like keep updating the component for infinity. We need set interval. But we need also to say clear interval, because if the component will unmount, if we will go to another page, for example, we will remove the component, we will also need to clear the interval. Otherwise, the interval will continue and will leak our memory. It will keep like upgrading something that doesn't exist. Are you with me, or it's too much?
With you, but yeah. Yeah, I'm just tracking the ideas.
So I will do it like fast. Component did mount and component will unmount. So here I will do this dot or like set interval. Set
You are not following the order. The mount, you know, the one.
did mount. It's like after rendering,
Okay.
do this.
Did mount.
So after rendering the component, we start the counter, and when we remove the component, will unmount. We will remove the counter. But the best way is just to store the counter here. This dot interval, or this dot interval ID. This dot interval ID. You can see. So you can put here clear interval. So we start it and we clear it when the component will end mount. Here we can put a set state. So we can put after each second set state. This dot set state. Counter
This dot state
this dot state dot counter
plus
plus one is better because remember immutable.
plus one. Okay.
Plus one. So we get the value, we add it one to it, and we replace it.
Yes. Just on the-
Now try going away and come back again.
What do you mean?
It should restart, right?
What do you mean?
refresh.
Refresh? Yeah, it will, of course, because we are refreshing the page.
Signal bağlanma oldu.
Yeah, how we can run unmount? For example, let's say I don't know how we can unmount this because we have like static application.
Need to move.
What happens if you just make a new page?
Yeah, we need to learn about React Router. So we will keep this for next time. But just if next time we will have like routing, so we'll have like pages. When you switch to another page, the old page will just go away. So we will have like the component will unmount. But just remember, when the component will unmount, we will clear? Clear or not? Can you see this? Like, is it clear?
Is it possible for you to render this counter.js in the same page with?
What do you mean by it's the same page?
I know just link them. I mean, can you write that same function or code?
Inside the to-do list?
Yeah.
But that will be that we
Complex.
no. That we will lose the idea of React because React is about what? React is about creating small components so I can reuse them. Let's say I want to put the clock inside the to-do list. Let's say I want another counter. For example, here I can just do this. I will need another counter. I can just do this. And the counter will start from -1. And we will have another counter starting from -1 and going up. Two separate components, two separate applications.
You can even take these components and use another page.
Exactly. So if you start putting stuff together inside React, you will lose the sense of React. So the main idea about React is to create really small components and reuse them.
That's the reason why he said with my assignment that why are you using to-do list there and then to-dos when the to-dos should be inside.
Exactly. It's like composing stuff. It's like Lego. You remember Lego? React is about Lego. So you have really small pieces and you can build whatever you want from the Lego. You can even build Legoland. It's really big shit. Just from small pieces. So this is the idea behind React. Creating small, even like the to-do list here. It's not really good because we have the input. Let's say I want to reuse the input. I want to put it somewhere else. I cannot because it's inside the to-do list. You got the idea? So it's better to even split the to-do list into the add component and the render list component. Clear? Clear or not? Are you sure? Don't you have any questions?
Not really. I have questions.
You have questions? Yeah?
Can we go home?
No, you cannot. Just a second, I need to explain the homeworks.
Okay.
Let's comment 0. So this is the homework. It's a little bit difficult. It's not really difficult, but you need to work with the state a lot. So based on your week 2 homework on this result of week 1. So when you are done, update your, okay, it doesn't matter. So you will create a React application that has this thing. So ID, so each to do, its ID, the description, deadline, and done. Okay? It's just like the same thing before. You need ID because you are rendering dynamic lists, remember the key and stuff? The JSON list should be in the state. Because you need to, when you add an element or something, you need to re-render. This is why you should put them inside the state of the app component. Create a checkbox in each to-do list. So inside each to-do list, so instead of just having to-do list like this, you will have checkbox here.
Yes.
And when you check the checkbox, it will be kind of done. You check it again, it will be undone, kind of. You got the idea?
But I got the idea, I know. But how to make it?
You need to think about it. Okay?
We have to rewatch the video 10 times.
Okay.
It's enough?
So actually the 5 to-do lists by the
Yeah. And also, like, when there is no items, you need to render like there are no items. Just a second, how you can render like dynamic stuff. So here you are rendering the list. Here. So here we can check if this dot state dot to do's it's less than 1. Return, let's say just p.
Yeah. You have three. No.
Items. But you cannot. You know the ternary operator. Remember it? Ternary operator. It's this one. Yeah, it's like it's like true.
Oh, yeah.
You remember this one? You put think that if this true, it will execute this. Otherwise, it will execute this one.
Yeah.
Remember it? It's basic JavaScript. So we do the same thing. We do like if this dot state dot to do it's less than 1, we render P with no items. Otherwise, 2 points. We put this here. I can do this so kind of more clear. So if this is true, so we have less than 1, so 0. So render no items. If this is otherwise, render this. So if we will go here and remove the default ones, put the counter to 0, okay, we will have an empty list. We will have now items. Let's say item, add. This is conditional rendering. So if there is like here we have condition. If this is true, render this, otherwise render this. So we almost have the to-do list application.
We don't make any input here.
It's not really necessary. If you want to do that, do it. But the most important thing is putting the state and checking. Okay.
Normally you check the state if you have something.
So now the basic idea, you will have like an array of objects. Each object has a value done or so you clone the array, remember? And the item that you need to update, because it's an array. So if you want to edit this item, you go to the second item of the array and you reverse done to true or false. Okay? If you edit this item, so this item is the third element in the array, you switch it to true or false. Okay?
We'll see.
I know it's a little bit difficult, but at least, if you cannot do this, do what I did. Do the add element, what we did here. Okay? At least try to kind of work with this thing. At least, please.
Oui.
Because next time we will start doing application, kind of. So I need you to understand these concepts.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You are
Watch that
welcome.
video again and we ask questions.